Hi everyone, I'm Hayley. I'm always in the craft room and I'm back with another Friday Sews. So today I've got nothing completed to show you behind me because I'm wearing it. It is my George's Portfolio Mellow top. This is actually a dress pattern, but I cut it off and have just made it as a top, and I'll stand up and show you how it's looking. So I will add in some proper modelled footage so you can see it, but I'm so thrilled with this top. I'm going to come close and show you my incredible binding. I know I gave you a little peek last week, but it really is fab. You will notice I have not yet solved the bra problem. I've just tucked this in and it's poking out, and I apologise if I fiddle with it, but you know when you make something new and you've just got to wear it like straight away? I love it. We will come to the bra in a little bit. So a bit more about this pattern. It is cut on the bias and is the first pattern that I've ever cut on the bias. I was a bit nervous. I laid it all out on a really low pile rug that we have, just so that the fabric could grip it a little bit, because I usually cut out on our kitchen work surface, and this is a really floaty viscose crepe, and I just thought it's going to shift so much. I'm not going to be able to keep things where I want them. So I laid it all out with pattern weights on a really low pile rug and cut it out that way. And I literally shuffled each pattern piece onto, you know, those tiny IKEA ironing boards? I had one of those on the floor, shuffled the piece onto it, and immediately fused the edges of the neck hole and the armholes with a Vilene form band, I think it's called. It's a fusible tape that just stabilizes edges, and I tend to use that instead of stay stitching because I just feel like the act of putting the fabric under the presser foot can stretch it out in and of itself, so I prefer that. So that's what I did. The instructions are fantastic. She shows you how to lay it out, and I must say, I normally just ignore pattern layouts. You know, when they show you how to lay it out on the fabric, to me it's just common sense. Like, they show you a grain line. If a piece fits, it fits. I've always been baffled by the existence of fabric layouts. Maybe someone can tell me what it's all about. Am I missing something? I've always just gone my own way, been true to the grain line. And the other thing that annoys me about fabric layouts, especially with commercial patterns, is how wasteful they are. We all know I love a bit of pattern Tetris, getting the largest remnants possible, because I always want a remnant to make something else with, and you know what is coming. Lots more Mellow tops from my remnants. So Georgia shows you how to lay it out, and in this case it is actually useful because I vaguely knew in the back of my mind that when you cut things on the bias, you need to like cut one this way and one this way. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't cut them both like that or it will twist. You need to do them perpendicular. But I didn't really understand how to achieve this. But no worries, George has got you. The pattern instructions tell you exactly what to do, how to lay it all out. And I've got to say, her binding instructions have led to the best bias binding I've ever done in my whole life. I'm so pleased with it. It looks absolutely fantastic. There was one thing that I couldn't find in the pattern instructions, and that was how wide a pre-purchase bias binding you would need. So she includes pattern pieces to cut your own and tells you how to press them, but she has you do it like the old-fashioned way, like start with a strip, fold it in half, but leaving a gap at the top, press it, tuck this in, press it, fold that, press it. And I have a little bias tape maker, so I wanted to use this. and I couldn't see anywhere, and the instructions are very thorough, so I probably just missed it. But I couldn't see what thickness bias tape I was aiming for to pick the right one of these, because I have a set that does loads of different sizes. So what I did was I cut out the paper pattern piece. Here it is. And I just folded it as per her directions. So it's 3 centimeters wide. And I think she has you fold up the bottom so that there's a gap of 6mm at the top, and then unfold that, and then fold that to that, and anyway, you end up with a strip, double folded, and this is what makes it so good. Can you see how there's like 1.5, 2mm there? Difference in the sizes. I've always pressed my double fold bias tape basically in half, and I think that's why I never catch the back. So the way she has you do it, there's a really distinct narrow side and fat side. So I knew what I was aiming for. So I made it in fabric using the 18mm one of these, which requires you to cut 36mm strips, not 30mm as per George's pattern piece. So I cut a 36mm bias strip, ran it through the bias tape maker to just make bias tape, folded it, but so that I had that lovely overlap. That means you're going to catch the back when you sew it. And then I compared it to my paper pattern piece, and it is a hair thicker. I'd say it's probably 1.5mm wider, that being 1/4 of the 6mm. So she tells you to cut 30mm strips. I cut a 36mm strip, and then when you've halved it and halved it, I think that's why this is a smidge wider. I decided if my cutting sewing seam allowances are accurate to 1.5mm, I'm a lucky girl. So I just went with that. And as I say, it's worked out so well. I absolutely love it. And I actually have some more bias tape I've already made from this navy, which will go with some scraps I've got. So with a print fabric, I thought this would look really nice with contrast binding. And I've got a leftover zebra print in navy. I just thought, oh, that would look so good. So that's definitely going to be one of my next projects. There is one thing that I'm not super happy with on this version, and it's my own fault because I didn't follow the directions. You know, when you see a pattern direction and you think, I know better than that. And so you do it, and then like 10 minutes later you realise, no, I don't. No, I don't. I'm just a home sewer. Georgia's a professional, like pattern designer, fashion designer. She knows what she's doing. Listen to her. But I didn't. And what I'm talking about is the side seams. I overlocked them first and then pressed the seam open. She told you to sew the side seam with a narrow zigzag and then finish them together on the overlocker and press them towards the back. And the reason I didn't do it is because whenever I've sewn a seam on the sewing machine and then tried to finish it together, it's always, when you press it, one side slightly got a little bit more fabric in it than the other. Do you know what I mean? And it's just not that flat. So I resisted, I didn't do it, and I was wrong because can you see these ripples? That's caused by the seam allowance. So I've learnt my lesson. Next time I will do it as instructed, but it's the kind of thing only we'd notice, right? So what else have I been up to this week? Wow, I told you last week, and sorry, the reason I'm looking over here is because I knew I had it handy. I told you last week about a bra I was going to alter to wear with this. And I was also planning to alter it because it was itchy. So previously, this ready-to-wear bra, still with the left and right, Hayley, had a weird like it wasn't a fringe, it was fabric, but zigzags along here. It was so uncomfortable and so itchy. So I told you I was just going to whiz it off on the overlocker, and I did it, and it worked. Can you see what I did there with the matching thread? I was pretty impressed with myself. I went in my overlocker thread drawer and realised I had this green that's exactly the same as all the details on it, so I did it in that. Anyway, it's not like the neatest finish ever, especially around the back where I had to tuck the threads in. Maybe black would have looked better in hindsight. But you know what? The itchy is gone. Yes. So there's a bralette I can put back into rotation. I also have plans to make it a crossback to wear with this top. Can anyone work out why I decided not to? Yeah, it's because these cups come up so high that when I just tried it on with this top, I realised they're visible no matter what I do with the straps. So that's not going to work for this. I need to come up with a new solution because I love the shoulder line and I don't want it interrupted by bra straps. So let's cover that with my hair. Oh, I forgot to say what size I made on the Mellow dress. And I made a size 12. I measured to be an 11 on the bust, a 12 on the waist, a 10 on the hips. And I just thought since it was bias cut and a little bit slinky, I'd be safest just going for a straight size 12. And it's exactly the fit I wanted. It's close, but not mega close. So, yep, pleased with that. There's one more thing I forgot to tell you about the Mellow top. So it has, nope, button closure here. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there you go. So two things actually. The first one is I did not pay enough attention when I was binding these end bits to make sure that they lined up nicely. So the back one's quite a lot wider than the front one and they don't look as good as George's do in the sample. So I need to pay closer attention to that next time, except, go away bra strap, I realised, because I'm lazy, that I can actually take it on and off without undoing the buttons, because they are thread chains and loops, and we've already established me and mirror image does not work. So trying to undo that in a mirror was taking me like a long time. Anyway, all that to say, when I make the next version, I'm going to add the seam allowance back on the front piece and not trim it off the back piece, which is part of the pattern instructions. And I am just going to bind the whole neckline in the round and yeah, just forego the closure altogether. I don't know if I've got a tiny head or what, but I don't need it. Your mileage may vary, but you know. For my first one, I always tend to make it up as per the pattern and then you live and learn, don't you? So yeah. The other thing I've been working on is the dreaded broderie on glaze dress. This was a make I started last year that I've been trying to rescue. It's not going well. So last time in the saga of the dress, I told you idiot me had overlocked the sleeves on, so I was dreading taking them off. When I came to take them off, I realised I hadn't done anything with the neckline. I hadn't stabilised it in any way, stay stitched it, anything. So before I started really getting in there with an unpicker, I thought I'd better do something about the neckline. So I cut a strip on the bias, folded it, and just did a really simple, I don't know what you call it, it's not a binding, but it's not a facing, it's like a bias, I guess it's a bias facing. Anyway, a bias band, we'll go with that. I do have some puckers at the front that I'm not like, they're not really puckers, it's just, it's a bit wonky donk, isn't it? And I think it was just where my needle hit the bumps in this embroidery. When I was considering what to do for the neckline, I did think about using a different fabric because this embroidery is lumpy and I thought that might be problematic. But this fabric has holes in it. So I thought if I used a different fabric, that might be really obvious through the holes. So yeah, I ended up using self fabric. If I had had a plain cotton that matched colour-wise really well, I would have used that. Anyway, it is what it is. I might go back and try and just unpick that bit and redo it. We'll see how much patience I've got. I did get one sleeve unpicked, and you know what? It didn't take as long as I thought. It took about 10 minutes, if that. To unpick overlocking thread, I use a technique I learned from Jali, the pattern company. I will link to the YouTube video below because it's so much quicker than what I was doing before. Before, I was just kind of hacking at it, pulling it, making it all tighter, making a big old mess with loads of tiny cut threads everywhere at the end of it. What they instruct you to do is cut the needle threads only, top and bottom, isolate the needle thread, pull the needle thread out the length of the stitching, pull the second needle thread, if there is one, out the length of the stitching, and then the looper threads just brrr. Oh, that was a good sound effect, wasn't it? Anyway, if you too struggle with unpicking overlocking, I will link to the video. Now, we've talked before about how one thing always leads to another with me. Summer is here. Ooh. I got my sandals out and they're annoying me. So I'll show you these lovely sandals. They're nice, aren't they? But this keeps falling off my heel. It's really annoying. At first, I was like, oh, it only happens every so often. It's fine. I can cope. And then I realised, no. I don't know if they've stretched a bit. I've not had them long. But we had friends round on like the first sunny day of the year, got my toes out. They had their first airing in the sunshine. And within about 10 minutes, this was doing my head in and I was just shuffling around trying to keep my shoes on. So something needs to be done. I was thinking about it and I have sandals that have bits of elastic in the back here to keep the strap on, and it does seem to work, but there's no way my machine is going through the shoe leather, like no chance. Even if I hand crank it, I'm not putting my machine through that. So I needed to come up with a way to add elastic and keep this on without sewing through it. I'll show you my prototype, which is the other shoe. Don't laugh, okay? So what I thought was tan elastic to match the shoe would be best. I went in the stash, all my elastic is white. I did have some bra strap that's kind of, it's similar to my skin tone. So when that's against foot, it won't be too visible. Just go with me here, we'll see if it works. So basically, I've got a piece of elastic, quite a long piece, starting here that goes around this, clipped it here because I thought I could sew there, and then I'm only sewing elastic to elastic, goes around the back, around the front here, is looped through there again, up the middle, and I could sew it there. And then I've got one piece of elastic that goes woo, should hold it on right, and I've just tied it on with a broken hair bobble just to see if it worked in theory. I've walked around in these for a while and we have proof of concept. So I'm going to stitch this elastic together. I was thinking here I could just do a little loop of the same elastic around the back. Whatever I do there, I have to be careful that it's not rubby because, you know, I'm a sensitive little princess. So we can't have anything that irritates me there. But I don't know, what do you think? Am I onto something here or is this just bonkers? The bra strapping has a plush side, so I thought that could be really comfy. Anyway, my husband laughed, but in an encouraging way. So I will let you know how this goes next week. The other thing I need to do is a really boring home deck project. I can't believe I'm going to air my dirty laundry on the internet, but I am. Check out my peg bag. You guys, isn't that awful? I swear it didn't look like this last summer. It's come out of the shed and it's just absolutely disgusting. And also it's not quite big enough. I've got more pegs than it can hold. This hanger is rusty but serviceable, so I just need to make a new peg bag. It's not difficult. In fact, I made this one. This was a ready to wear, a ready-made peg bag that I actually got as a wedding present. So, but when that shredded, I just drew out a new pattern and made this, and I just need to do it again, reusing the hanger. So I don't really want to do that, but I guess I will. And the other update I have is on my birder trousers. The trousers of doom. So, last we left off, I'd lost the instructions. As soon as I finished filming that video, I just thought, this is ridiculous. Sewing room's pretty tidy, but not immaculate. So I thought, I'm just going to tidy up, because if anyone reads Gretchen Rubin, who wrote The Happiness Project, one of her like top tip life hacks is if you can't find something, just tidy up. And you guys, it works so well. So I thought, I'm just going to put everything away, make it immaculate. Well, 8 seconds later, I moved one thing. There were the instructions. So, got going. If you'll remember, the reason I wanted the instructions was that I loved the way they dealt with the zip. I've always known I had a bad memory, but this is proof, because I don't like this zip installation at all. I've made these trousers twice, thought I loved how they did the zip, and this time I'm just like, what? This is bonkers. So who even knows? Do you want to see the zip? I'll go and grab it. So it's an invisible zip, and what they tell you to do, this is going to be hard to show you because it's such dark navy. What they tell you to do is baste the full leg side seam from the top to the bottom, baste it. And then in between the notch where the zip ends and the notch for the slit at the bottom, they tell you to sew that. And then you unpick the basting and just lay the seam on top of the zip and then like top stitch it on. That seems strange to me. What do you think? Whenever I've done invisible zips before, it's always been lay the zip on top, right sides together, so as close as you can. I just thought that was really odd. Anyway, I put the zip in. There was a big bulge at the bottom. I unpicked it. I put the zip in. There was an even worse bulge at the bottom. I've now put the zip in for the third time, and it is staying. The bulge isn't bad. In fact, when they're not on my body, I don't think you can even see it. It's tiny. It's fine. It's fine. But now we have another problem. I kept trying them on because I did need to shave a little bit of the curvature of the hips, because my hips are quite narrow compared to the rest of me. So I tried them on, basted it, tried them on, yada, yada, yada. And then once I'd got the fit where I wanted it, I was able to like stand back and appreciate the whole garment. And that's when I thought, something's off here. Something's a bit wrong. These don't look like I was expecting. I kind of look like an extra from Pirates of the Caribbean. Why is that? Because they're so freaking short. They're not capri length. They're like knee breeches. They're just terrible. They're just laughable. And I was like, I've made these before and they're a good length. What's gone wrong? What might have gone wrong? Oh yeah, I wanted view B. I cut view A. Even view A should not be like basically shorts, but I have really long legs. I'm not tall, but I have really long legs. And on me, I'm not even joking, knee breeches. I'm wondering about putting a cuff on the bottom. It's lovely fabric. I'm so annoyed with myself. So yeah, I'm sorry it's such a downer again. That's 2 weeks on the trot that I've just been like, oh, it's not going well. But it is going well because check this out. So yeah, some wins, some losses in the craft room this week. We will keep going. We will make it work. One day I will wear those trousers with pride. You wait and see. I will. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I hope to see you again soon. Bye. Better. And as I'm looking at it, got to sort those bra straps out. But, sorry, just got a message. Why do I never put it on Do Not Disturb? I think that's it for the Mellow. Is it? I think so. Let's have a look at the notes. Why do I make notes if I never read them? We're good. Bye.